dope guest, Elton Aura. What's up, Elton?
What's going on now?
How you doing?
Doing great. It's a beautiful day today.
Thank you so much for saying yes to be on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for asking me.
Yeah.
For sure.
I feel like I was like, yeah, we got to get Elton.
You always look out, so
I'm
going to show up. I'm going to pull up.
Always. So kicking it off with Positioning Your Passion podcast, we're really looking at talking to artists about what is working and encouraging them to share tips around their process for creatives who are also on that journey. Mm-hmm. So I know you are multi-talented. I would consider yourself a self-managing artist in a way. How did you get your name, Elton Aura?
That's funny. Yeah, so I was hanging out with some friends. I think I was probably like 19 or 20. And this was before we came out to Chicago, from the burbs, me and my group of homies. And up until that point, I've gone by EJ my whole life.
What's the J for?
Jerome. But I'm also a junior.
Ah.
But I use it for Jerome. That's what I said.
Okay.
But it could be either or. So I never liked my first name growing up as a kid. Okay. So I never wanted anybody to call me Elton. So I just always went by EJ. So then I remember us all talking about it. It was like, yo, if we're going to do this music thing, we got to figure out what our name's going to be. You know what I mean? So everybody kind of picked their name. And, I was a little older then. So I was like, okay, it's time to switch it up and go by Elton for sure. So at first my artist name was just Elton.
Okay.
And I was dropping music as Elton. Mm-hmm. But you can never find me because of Elton John.
It's already Elton.
It's already Elton. It's already Elton. So it was like, okay, we got to figure something out to, differentiate myself. So I got music out as Elton. You could go, It's
Elton.
Yeah. So if anybody can help me figure that out to move everything over. But yeah, so I added the aura to it.
And what does aura mean for you? Why aura?
For me, I just wanted something positive. I wanted something that meant radiation, something that meant light to me. And I like how it sound. I felt like it rolled off the tongue well. So I was just like, yeah, Elton Aura. I think that the illumination of something, to kind of be a representation of who I am in my most authentic place.
Yeah, and it works. What is your advice to artists that are maybe trying to figure out or go between the government name versus some, stage name, and even changing their name at a point?
I feel like when you use your real name, people are going to associate your art form with who you are. Mm-hmm. So when we think about somebody like a Kendrick Lamar, that's his name, so whenever he presents his art form, we take that as an aspect of this is who he's embodying himself. Mm-hmm. So it's he portrays that in his music. So I feel like that's just a choice you can make. And then when you have a different name that's not necessarily your own, you're almost just creating another alter ego. Yeah. Which you can still do once you use your real name, And I love when artists do that. Of course, Madlib does that. King Cruel has a bunch of different, Mac Miller had a bunch of different alter egos. So I'm always super intrigued by people who do that as well.
Working on a project, last year and then coming into this year, were there any, moods or themes that carried over, or was it this is that project and then now I'm working on this? How does your
so work? I would say no. Between these two, nah. No. The guitar projects are gonna be their own lane. I'm coming from a different place since I'm new to it. I'm new to the instrument. Yeah. So I kind of want it to be me learning to write songs and what my journey is with playing guitar and writing songs. Yeah. So that's what's gonna be my guitar projects. It's pretty much gonna be that. There'll be other production and I'm still collaborating with other people on it, but it all pretty much stems from me and the guitar. I write the song that way, and then I build from there. So none of those songs that I just put out, I don't even think they were made during Vertigo time. Nah, maybe one, maybe Signs, but Nah, the rest of them are more recent. Because I'm not trying to really sit on them for too long either. You know, so you might get those in between. You're gonna get them in between different projects. Vertigo, to me, and eventually everybody will see like what it is, but that's more connected to my first project, Elevated, my first solo project.
I love that project. That's your name.
You do.
Yeah, let's go.
So that's gonna be its own series.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so you have been learning the guitar. You're still learning. What has that process been like for you, and why guitar? Is it an instrument you always wanted to learn?
To me, honestly, it started during the pandemic.
Okay.
So it's really around 2020. I moved out to LA around that time. You know, wide-eyed, you know, wet behind the ears, being like, okay, I was in Chicago, now moved to LA, it's about to turn up.
Right.
Yeah, like it was like February when I went.
Okay, yeah.
So I was out there for a month making moves. Like I was geeked. March, boom, closed, everything. So, you know, everybody went through something during that time where we all just, you know, trying to figure out what's the next move, like figuring out who we are. We haven't spent a lot of time with ourselves. So in that time, I was living with people who were musicians, so I was definitely collaborating with them. But I needed to figure out who I wanted to be also, like as an artist, and I didn't want to feel like I was relying on anyone ever. And I've had the privilege to like work with amazingly talented producers, but I wanted to see what it felt like to, you know, be able to express my own ideas without any outside influence, at least at the root of it. So I started picking up. I just picked it up. Like one of my roommates at the time had one, and it was sitting there. So I would just mess around, play to songs that I liked or whatever. But I wasn't good. You know what I'm saying? I'm just like using my ear. I'm just like using my ear because I'm still like musical. So using my ear and figuring things out. And like if we're producing songs, I'll like play a little lead line or something. But then I was like, man, I kind of like I feel like I'm understanding this a little bit. So I called my friend Brian Sanborn, amazing guitarist, amazing musician, and one of my closest friends. Like he's back in Chicago. I'm like, bro, can you start like, you know, teaching me some stuff? You know what I mean? And so it's just like all over Zoom or over Google Meet or whatever. And he just asked me like, what do I want to learn? And I think that was the best question he could ask me, because I know other people learn instruments in different ways, especially when they're taught from being a child. They learn like scales right away or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I've been in music theory classes and it never clicked. It was almost like, this don't make sense to me. Yeah. But when he asked me that, I was like, oh, I want to write songs. So he was like, okay, cool. So he taught me chords right away, which for anybody who doesn't know, chords are just a mixture of different notes to create like a fuller sound. So, and they all harmonize together. So yeah, he taught me that, and I could start writing songs like immediately, as long as, you know, I applied it. So he would just tell me like, you know, just practice this. Once you like get inspired, stop practicing and like put it down. Yeah. And that just changed my whole trajectory. I feel like it lengthened my life, my career, because now it's just like nobody can tell me nothing. Like, you know what I mean? Like I can always just sit in my room and make something, you know?
Do you think it's important that artists learn an instrument at some point, as songwriters maybe, or?
Yeah, I think it is important. Wow, that's a good question, because everybody has a different process, and I feel like some people write with no music. For me, it's helped with communication. I think that just helps a lot. And I remember before, like making music, I'll be like, yeah, I just want it to sound like glitter, and, you know, talking to producers, saying, you know, using adjectives like that. And they're just like, what are you talking about? If y'all don't speak that language, or if they don't really know where you're coming from, you know what I mean? So I think it's important that you can just show them, oh, I got this idea. This is what you know. And
it allows you to like step into like kind of their world, and then now you understand the language that they're speaking, and you can Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
It definitely helps for that, you know.
So you would say you're a better songwriter now that you have learned an instrument?
Yeah, I remember one of my friends mentioned to me that somebody, I'm pretty sure it was Q-Tip or somebody crazy told them that if you can just have a song rip every element out of it, and it's just one instrument and a voice, and the song still hits just as hard, that means you got a good song. You know, and I feel like a lot of times, if it's like overproduced, things are overproduced because the instrumentation is just really good or intricate or whatever, it could kind of take away from the song. So I think starting with just like one instrument and the voice, like puts you in a good place to be like, okay, yeah, this is just a solid song, and then we can build around it.
Yeah, that makes sense. You're a very collaborative person. Yes. And when I think about like, you gotta like name drop, but what is that process like for you collaborating? Are you thinking of collaborators when you're starting to draft those songs? Like, oh yeah, I know this person could probably be great on this. Or is this happening in real time where y'all are creating together and then the collaboration just happens naturally? Or both?
Yeah, it's different.
Okay.
It's always different. I guess it depends. Do you mean like artists or people who are more vocal or producers, or what do you mean?
I mean, you got like some collab EPs out, like, you know, like how does that process when actually putting together songs with other artists and collaborating?
Well, they were always, all of the collabs have been different. So if you're speaking of one like with Twins,
I would say maybe 2020. I really the artist, forget his name, but
Made a Lane.
Yeah, it was like black and white.
Oh,
like maybe
Black
5.
Shores?
Yeah.
Well,
that first track.
That's one of my closest friends. Made a Lane, dope artist, dope visual artist, rapper, producer, everything. Shout out Made a Lane. Yeah, we've been cool since high school, but we hadn't made music. You know, we've been in collectives together. He's always played like a different role because he's just a multi-talented person. So he's done graphics, web design, all that. So he got into music like, as far as making music, a little bit after like me. But, you know, he was living in New York for a while. So we moved to LA at the same time. We moved together out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So he was one of my roommates.
So y'all was just out there in 2020, like.
Oh, we was out there. We was out there. Like at homies' cribs, bouncing around, trying to figure out what the move is. Like, it was rough. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah. So we were just like, yo, we got to make something. Like, we got to be creating something in this time. And we was both creating. We in the same house creating at different times, like separately.
So it's like, let's bring that together and see what we can do.
Let's bring it together. I had like Blood, Sweat, Tears. He had some other joints. And then he was like, okay, let me get on some of your production. So then I was making beats, sent it to him. He in the other room, writing to it, come back, record it. I'm like, bro, that's hot. You know what I mean? So it was just like happening that way.
Would you say you're a person that collaborates just with friends? Like, are your DMs, emails open for folks to hit you up and hop on a feature? Or like, what's that process like for you?
Yeah, I think it's the season. It matters. Like, it changes with the season. But for the most part, I'm cooking with friends because I'm with them.
Yeah.
I'm hanging with them. And one of the things that we usually have in common is just loving to make music. So a lot of times, if we're at somebody's crib, they got a studio at the crib. You know, I'll be with people who you just sitting in the crib making a beat, somebody just making a beat.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it's nothing.
It's just natural. So those happen real organically. But to answer your question, yes, I'm down to collaborate. I want to continue to expand my network.
Okay.
You know.
That's good to know. So you can hit up Elton and you know, we'll see. We'll see. The vibe has to be right.
Yeah, it's got to make sense.
Yeah.
It's definitely got to make sense.
But you're not closed off to it.
I'm not closed off.
Okay.
I want to continue to collaborate.
All right. Do you have any dream collabs with folks that maybe you...
Yeah, I got a whole list. In my
come on, let's go. We want to know.
Toro and moi. Definitely got to cook with Toro. I met Toro one time at the Ace Hotel when it was open. And
R.I.P.
Huh?
I said R.I.P.
I know. We had some nice events.
We did.
There. But Yeah, we did.
Come on, yeah.
The fashion show, that was dope. That was dope. But yeah, Tory Moyes one. Hiatus Coyote, would love to do something with them. Who else? I'm gonna say Ghetto Sage. I'm gonna throw that out there. That's people from the crib.
Look.
That's people from the crib. We just gonna put that out there.
I don't know. Yeah. Yeah, Ghetto Sage. Yeah. That was a whole like.
Oh, that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
In particular, Ghetto Sage. In particular.
That makes sense.
There's an artist that I just recently got put on. Her name is Mommy.
Okay.
Very dope. I'm pretty sure she's from Chicago.
All right.
But to the point where like you listening to the music, you like, how you doing this? Like, you know what I mean? And it's been, you want that feeling. So I want to collaborate with people who give me that. Where it's just like, it's not just like
you're inspired. You're amazed. You're like,
I want to be amazed. I want to be amazed when I hear something. I don't just want it to sound like something that I've heard.
So that's a tip. So when looking to collaborate with people, be excited, be amazed, and then let that be a driving force.
Absolutely.
And then cook with the homies.
I feel like I'm amazed by a lot of the homies too. Like my homie Luke Titus is incredible. I love making stuff with him. I love making stuff with Kari.
Oh yeah, Kari. Shout out Kari.
You know what I mean? I'm amazed by them every time. You know what I mean? So
I don't know. You're a little modest though, because I feel like you keep it low key, but you are in like great company of like some really amazing artists, and like you said, like a lot of them are the homies. Through all of that and having all that access and like being in that community, how do you think you've been able to kind of sort of stay authentic to your voice and your style like through that? Because you are very unique. And your sound is like very unique.
I appreciate that.
I'm a fan. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I think it comes from a few different things. One is like encouraged in my circles of friends. It's things that we all kind of have pinpointed within each other and almost like reflect in each other. It's like what we like about each other is that it's only one. You know, there may be people who might do something kind of similar, but nobody is the culmination of all of their like influences and practices and, you know, inspirations that made this person, you know. And I think it's just something that I've always been like attracted to in a way. So I probably just live in that. It's not like an on purpose thing, you know. I think it just comes from just certain inspirations and being the culmination of my inspirations.
Well said. And you're from Fox Valley, Illinois, which is about how far from Chicago?
Good
little hour, you know what I'm saying? Up the street, we cousins, you know. What was it like growing up in Fox Valley, and like how did you, I guess, make your way into the Chicago music scene?
In the burbs, I wouldn't say it's very diverse. You know what I mean? So you got to kind of find your people. You got to find people who are into the same things that you're into. It's interesting because I've never felt like I was from one place.
Okay.
And that's just me specifically. I feel like my life was always like cut up into like threes. Or just like a certain amount of years like gapped out because I moved twice. Or three times. Twice. So I was born in Chicago.
Okay.
Till I was around like 5. Then we moved to a suburb right outside, Hillside. I don't know if people know where that is, but it's around like Bellwood, Maywood.
Okay. No, Maywood.
Yeah, it's right there. Okay. So just right off 290, like 10, 15 minutes outside of Chicago. So my whole grade school life, that's where I lived. Real diverse, a lot of different kids, a lot of different people. And then around high school time, I think like 8th grade, that's when we moved to Fox Valley, which was like another 40 minutes west.
Okay.
So we just kept going west.
Further west.
But you know how it is in Chicago. It's like wherever you went to high school, that's where you're from, right? So it's like, don't even try to. This is a moment where I can kind of just say the whole story, but you from the burbs, like that's just essentially what it is. So it was pretty organized. It was like 4 junior highs in the district, and then those 4 junior highs split up into, and then they went to 2 high schools from there. You know what I mean? So you would be rivals in junior high, and then once you went to school together, it's like, okay, now we cool. So yeah, so that's essentially how it happened. And I just started linking with some homies, and I was on the basketball team, so I played basketball all 4 years. So that's how me and May Lane found each other. Mm-hmm. So that was dope. So basketball was the one thing. It was just like, all right, we connect on that. Mm-hmm. And then after that, it was like music. Are you into music? I'm pretty sure he put me on a J. Cole, and I'm pretty sure Wale, maybe not Wale, but Kendrick. At least those two, for mm-hmm. sure. So, you know, we connected off of that. And then one of my homies, Nehemiah, he was like the first person I made music with. Mm-hmm. So that started in like my freshman year. I think he was a junior, and we was a group. We was like an R&B group. And one of the big bros, shout out Drew. Drew was like a big brother to us. I think we all like went to the same church in the city. And he used to come and pick us up, take us back to his crib, and we would make songs. Nice. In high school, I'm like 15, and he was like on Logic or GarageBand producing the beats, and then me and Nehemiah would like sing on them. You mm-hmm. know what I mean? We was doing talent shows and all of that. Go. So that kind of really got me into like making music and like taking it serious in a way. But I was spending a lot of time doing that. My parents was like, you can't do this no more. Yeah. Exactly. Like, you need to be focused on school. So I had to like stop making music for a little bit.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was crazy. So yeah, doing that, finding the people that I related to in different ways, whether it was art, sports, or whatever. And then after high school, I stayed in the area because I ended up going to like a community college in the area, right? Mm-hmm. That's where like my band formed. So I formed like a collective with like some other people. Some you know, out here. Blake Davis was in it. Yeah, Felix was in it.
One thing that I have always appreciated about you is that like you own it though. Like in terms of like, I know you said like you are from different places, but it's like I feel like I've known from the very beginning that like, oh, I'm from Fox Valley, and it's a crew of us.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's like, and I feel like the people that you just named are a part of that.
We talked about it. You know what I mean? It's like when we're proud of what we cultivated.
Yeah, and that's rare though, because I think in a lot of ways, like being suburb, you just go to the next thing. Like there are literally people that are like, oh, I'm from Chicago, or they'll kind of like not want to claim where they're from.
Yeah.
But it seems like there's definitely a lot of pride with that group, and y'all like, y'all don't shy away from it.
Absolutely, because we know, in a way, it's hard. It's almost harder out there because it's so much complacency, and everything is so spread out, and there's not many creative outlets out there. Like a lot of people that live out there and that grew up out there, no shade, but they got married and they stayed out there. They raised kids and like really didn't leave. Yeah. You know what I mean? And didn't really see much further, but like shouts to them, like, you know what I mean? But we always saw further past it. So it's like we wanted to be around people who was on our same level and like we could kind of just cook with, move around with. So the band was called The Art of Cool. It was a collective. It had like artists in it, visual artists in it, videographers, photographers. You know, we was doing our thing. And we started doing shows as the band. And we were doing like some shows in the burbs and like the Cow by NIU. We was doing shows up there. Then we started doing shows at Reggie's. Okay. We won like some battle of the bands at Reggie's. We had to do like 3 shows in a row. So that was when we like first started like coming out to the city and doing stuff. Mm-hmm. And then it was like, honestly, Crucible, like turning point, Chance dropped Acid Rap, like straight up.
Was it just the fact that it dropped? Was it the music? Like what about it was like, oh, nah, we got to get to Chicago. Like we got to be in Chicago.
First, I'll say this. Chance came out to the high school.
Okay.
To sell tickets.
And it was your high school? Shows.
It was my old high school. I had graduated. I think I was 1 year out.
Okay. Alumni.
Yeah, I was alumni. But he had came out. I think one of the kids who still went there, I think Chance had asked on Twitter, where should I go to sell tickets for this show? And one of the kids that went to the school was like, come out here.
And you came.
And he actually pulled up. He had a a truck, some of the homies. I forgot who I was in there, but he pulled up, and it was like, okay, something is cultivating. You know what I mean? Like, it's expanding past the city. It's starting to go to like the whole state, but like we close enough to like go out there and feel it. And we started getting more shows out there. Like, we was at Silver Room. We was doing shows at Silver Room when it was still in Wicker, when it was in Wicker. So we had just kept coming back. The same day we went to check out Silver Room to just see what the venue was. I mean, see what it was. We also checked out a apartment in Hyde Park. So we was just like, it's like pretty much the band went and just migrated, and we all living in a small apartment in Hyde Park. You know what I mean?
I can imagine.
Too many of us. Too many of us in that apartment. But
it was time. Like,
it was time. It was time. And the band kind of disassembled at that point because everybody was starting to kind of do their own thing. Someone went to school, U of I, NIU. But for a few of us, like the nucleus, it was like, we have to be here. Was the first place we all like moved to. You know what I mean? And then from there, we moved to a lot of other places. Yeah. Little Village, Logan Square, Humble Park.
But at that point, you're in the city.
We're in the city.
Yeah.
And we making connections, and we building with people. You know what I mean? Yeah, we was going to Herald. So, you know, I was working at Urban Outfitters. You know what I mean?
I feel like when I met you at Buffalo Exchange.
Buffalo Exchange. Yeah, that was some years after. Yeah. So I had been out there for a while. Been out here for a while.
But yeah. You most recently moved back to Chicago. I wouldn't say recent, but what went into that decision? Like, why did you choose? You were out in LA. It was rough, but y'all were, you know, doing it. Yeah. And then what made you come back? And are you going to stay?
Well, what made me come back? Well, I had some shows out here. I had booked 2 shows out here.
Okay.
One was a New Year's show with Luke Titus, and the other one was a Mavi show, which was dope. And, you know, I remembered the feeling of the community that I hadn't necessarily built in LA yet. There are people out there in LA, you know what I mean? There's people from Chicago out there in LA as well. But, you know, coming back, it was a different type of love. And I just wanted to like continue to cultivate and be here and like with the community here as well. So it kind of just set up in my mind. I do think I'm going to still move around. But as far as whenever somebody asks me like where I want to live, I want to always have a place in Chicago. Like, I'll go to LA to work, to cook up, you know, hopefully at some point have a crib there. You know what I mean? But I don't think I'll ever actually like leave. It's because it's done too much. Like, I remember just going to Classic Studios and just being him allowing me to stay overnight at the studio. You know what I mean? It's like, who's doing that? You know what I mean? Yeah. He's always been like planting seeds and just cultivating and giving back to the place that like gave to you, you know, gave you life, or, you know, where you were able to hone your skills and build community. So I love how it feels here right now. You know what I mean? I love how it feels here. So I'll always be here, but I'm still go make my moves because I think it's important to expand, you know, and take the, like, what we're doing here and share it with the world. Because it's crazy being out of LA when you tell people that you from here. It's like an automatic respect. It's crazy because a lot of their sound came from here. A lot of the stuff that they're trying to put into what they do comes from here a lot of the time. So you gotta continue to feed it, you know.
Exactly. Well, I'm happy you're back. I feel like I was just like, you're like, oh yeah, I'm back. I'm like, man, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah. And you have like moved, well, not necessarily moved, but you've been around. Like, you've toured, you've gone all around, you know, the country. What is that process like for you, touring for yourself and then being a part of someone else's tour? Can you talk about like navigating in both those spaces? Because I feel like early you went on tour.
Shout out to the 2 women who took me on tour. No Name and Lily, La 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 La. I love, being in alignment with like just dope women artists. And I'm just super thankful that they would allow me to share my art, and represent them in a way, because when you take somebody on tour, like, they're representing you.
Yeah.
So I appreciate them. Both tours were very different. I just remember waking up to an email from like No Name's team and them just like asking me if I wanted to go on tour and like a list of dates. And I was working at a bar at the time. I was bussing tables at a bar. Mm-hmm. And I was working hard to, after the bar, going to the studio. You know what I'm saying? Just trying to
grind, yeah.
Just grind it, you know what I mean? And so I had remembered that I wrote that down years ago, that I was going to go on a North American tour. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So when it happened, it was kind of crazy because it was a lot of dates. And I was just like, okay, what am I going to do? But at the time I had a manager who had a lot of experience with tours. Mm-hmm. So that helped me kind of figure out what to do to prepare to go. And it's almost like I still didn't really know, because they were kind of handling certain things like, oh yeah, just do this, just do this, just do this. Mm-hmm. So I wouldn't say that a lot of those things stuck. A lot of the principles or like preparation really stuck with me in that time, besides like making sure I had merch to go. That was like the one thing, you know what I mean? But I didn't know like the little intricacies of even like where I was gonna stay and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I'm just straight up in artist mode, you know what I mean? So we go do the tour. Tour is amazing. Tour is dope. Like, a lot of them, if not the whole thing, sold out, playing to No Name fans. Like, they received me well. And I feel like my music, especially at that time, they could like receive the music well. Because I think we complemented each other. And so that was amazing, Second tour, different story. Like, by that time, you talked about like kind of being self-managed or just having a lot more like influence on what happened, what went into it. Mm-hmm. And I'll just say this. I don't think everybody should say yes every time they get asked, if they do get asked. I do think it's a blessing to go. Yeah. To get asked. And I knew inside of me, like, once Lily asked me to go, or her team asked me to go, I was excited. And then I was like, what am I going to do? Like, how was this going to work? Yeah. What do I need to go? And at that point, all the responsibility was on me to figure it out. Yeah. So I had to pull on the community. You know what I mean? I had to pull on the community. I had a few people in my corner who I could bounce ideas off of, routing, how to get from one city to the next. How far are those rides? Can you make it? Should you stay overnight, or should you go right after the show so that you make it on time? Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Figuring things out like that.
All the logistics.
The things that, we just don't think about when you're just in artist mode. So I had to like figure out how to turn artist mode off and then turn on logistical mode, which I didn't think I had that. I used that side of my brain, but I've developed it in the last year. I strengthened it. You know what I mean? Because I'm also talking to people who had never done it too. Yeah. And they giving me, people telling me one thing, somebody else telling me something else.
And then you got to focus in and figure
out, and then I have
to
make the decision, because you the CEO, you the boss. Like, you could do what anyone says, but at the end of the day, they all going to look at you to be like, okay, that was a good idea, that was a bad idea. Or you just got to make up for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. What advice would you give to artists who are wanting to go on tour, whether it's going on tour with someone or, launching a tour for themselves? What are maybe some things that you wish you would have known? Yeah. When do they know they're ready? What are some things they should be considering before even saying yes?
Well, one thing I would say is just do shows at the crib.
Mm-hmm.
Like, start off doing shows at the crib. Like, at that point, when I went on my first tour, I can't even tell you how many shows I had done. Because I feel like
you was out here.
that was just, I feel like one of my strongest attributes is like my live performance. Like, I love doing shows, you know? So I was always booking a show. You know, I was always just trying to get into different bills with different people. And I think that allowed me to also build the community here. But other than that, I think there are now smarter ways to tour.
Mm-hmm.
After the first tour, I was like, how sustainable is this for someone at this level? You know, because you need to know, like, you're going to be spending a lot of money. You might not even make no money from the shows. So you need to have merch. So you got to front that money for the merch. You got to get a vehicle. You got to get gas. I think just run your list of what you're going to need to go. I think ask people who have experience in that field, who have gone, and what it looks like, what it realistically looks like to go. I ended up having to pull on the community, you know, crowdfunding. You know, I ended up linking with my homie Jansen, and my homie Jansen really helped with using his platform of photography and people who just wanted photos from him. And he sent them pretty much my way to help me go on tour. You know what I mean? And the community did that, you know? And so that was just like a full-on blessing that I would never forget, you know? And that just showed me like truly like what we've built here in Chicago.
No,
what else did you ask?
No, that makes sense. I think you answered it. You hit it right on the head. But yeah, the question was just like advice for folks wanting to get into tour.
I did have one more thing.
Yeah, how crazy.
I think there's more sustainable ways to tour now, because mostly every time that I've gone, it's been like super rough, you know, to like make it through. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Whether something happens with the van, or you got to stay at homies' cribs, you don't got a hotel. It's like, where does the money come from to fund the tour? You know what I mean? So I think that's one thing. I think there are now more sustainable ways, being maybe having particular cities that you go to, instead of just thinking like, oh, we're just going to go Chicago, St. Louis, like wherever is close, you know, and then just following the path that you've seen before. I think it's important to know like where people kind of want to see you.
Yeah, knowing your fan base.
Knowing your fan base a little bit, which I'm still figuring out my fan base. I'm still figuring out like where y'all at, who really listening, you know what I mean? Like, where could I go? And then just having those, like, pinpointing those spots and then just hitting those spots. So it like leaves room, like less room for error.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then you can like space it out a little bit more. It doesn't, like, we was doing a show every other day.
Oh, wow.
You know, especially on the first tour. I mean, but no name got hella fans. You
know
what I mean?
So it was like
different.
The booking was there.
Yeah, the booking was there, but you know, you might need to space it out. Maybe your tour spans over 3 months or whatever, and you're doing twice a week or you're doing once a week. I think like it becomes a little bit more sustainable. Maybe playing with people who are already in that city, if you have that sort of reach. You know, just figuring it out, you know, and kind of spacing it out to where it could work for you also monetarily, so you're not too deep in the red. You know what I mean?
Too deep in the red. That's a bar. So for your team, who do you work with? Like, who's making it happen? I know I consider you like, you know, a self-managing artist. You had a manager at one point. Mm-hmm. Present day.
Couple.
You're a couple. Okay. Run it.
Yeah, I would say I'm figuring out, you know, just through research, like there's not one way to do this.
Yeah.
You know, and like really looking at myself as an entrepreneur, as a business. And, you know, we've seen, you know, somebody they get a manager, somebody that believes in them, and they rocking for their careers. For, you know, that's ideally what you think, what you want. That's not always the case. So I think it's important to assess your needs, assess like what you need in your career. Do you just need somebody to answer emails for you? For real.
True.
Do you need somebody to help book you shows? You know, do you need somebody, if you do have shows, to meet you at the show and just kind of run your merch table for you while you doing the performance? Or I think it's assessing what you need, because it's hard sometimes to expect someone to give up their life and put it into you. You know, and that's kind of the role, almost like an artist is almost like a manager's just responsibility. I don't even want to say child or anything, but it's like their responsibility, you know? So they got to make sure, you know, they calling you every day, or they call, you know, every relationship is different, but it's like they checking in, making sure you good. That's a lot to ask.
Yeah.
So as I get older and just more mature in, you know, my career, I'm learning that it's like, okay, maybe I need to call on people for different things at different times, depending on my needs and their skill set. So it might not be one person that's just like handling my entire career. Everything that happens, it runs through them. Ideally, that's what I thought I needed, but that's got to be me though, at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And of course, I just want to focus on music. You know what I mean? But right now, I'm realizing like I need to know what's going on everywhere, because how can I expect somebody else to do something for me if I don't know like what's going on? Like that's not even fair to them. Like you need to be able to go to them and be like, I need you to do this one thing for me, or can you do this one thing for me? They say yes or no, and then you could say, no, you could do that like this because you've done it already. So I think I'm just at that point in my career where I'm just like so hands-on that I'm realizing, this person has this type of skill set. They're really good with ideas. So like maybe I can bring something to them and we can like bounce ideas off of each other. And then, you know, we move from there. We go from there. Or this person, like, they're good with logistics. So maybe I just go to them for this one thing. And that might not be the same person you go to the ideas for. You might just go to the logistical person and you already have an opportunity. You know, so I think it's important to just figure out what you need and learn it yourself too. Because like something I've been living off of recently is, do I have more time than money, or do I have more money than time? If I have more time than money, I'm gonna learn how to do it myself. And if I got more money than time, then I could pay somebody to do it.
It's a great perspective.
And I've been doing a lot on my own since.
I got the time. Right.
But you know, eventually, you know, I can pay for the service of somebody who can probably do it better than me, and you know, it just lives in that place.
Yeah.
And I feel like I've been building that this last year. You know, people who like learning what their strengths are, whether it's my lawyer, you know what I'm saying? I do have an attorney that helps me, that I can like, super blessed for this, but that I can send contracts to and be like, yo, can you read over it? Can you help me with this? Like, yeah. And it's helped me, like he has helped me like not sign terrible things, you know, that I could have signed. And recently I just got in contact with a dope project manager, which is a different type of role. Sometimes you may need someone to work on a particular project for you. And you can have multiple projects running at once with different people managing your different projects at once. And I think that's just a new way for me to like kind of look at what I'm doing, like see me as like the nucleus, and then have pieces that play off of like what I'm trying to do so that I can like get more done in a way.
I'm going to take us back. Can you tell us a story, like a funny story from tour? Either one.
Some crazy.
Or a memorable story.
Yeah, some crazy. Multiple things happen all the time. Well, one time, I think we was in St. Louis on the No Name Tour, Room 25 tour. Dope show. Crowd was amazing. But you know, like they got those smoke machines.
Oh yeah, they
let out the smoke backstage or whatever. I guess one of them was leaking, and I was done with the show. We did our last song. I was like, thank you, and I kind of hit a little jog, coming off the stage, and I guess it was leaking, and I slipped on it and fell. Bust my shit.
Back first, head first.
It was back first. So I caught myself.
Okay.
And I didn't know if anybody saw it or not. But you know, adrenaline, we just did like 45 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like my adrenaline pumping. Like I fell, slipped. I didn't know if they saw. I went back out on the stage, grabbed the mic. I just fell, but thank you. And they was looking at me like,
what are
we
you
didn't
talking
even
about?
see you. So I was like, oh, I just did the most. It was so awkward. And then I just walked off like all sad.
Yeah, but you weren't hurt.
I wasn't hurt.
I wasn't hurt.
So no liability issues there. Second tour, we dented. Okay, within 24 hours, van got towed.
Oh shit.
We was in LA. Van got towed LA probably like 2 hours before the set. Had to go get that, bring it back, do the show, right? In the show. Next show was in San Diego. Get in the van, drive to San Diego. Next show is about to happen. We like, oh, okay, let's go get some tacos. Pulling out, go get some tacos. Person was driving, hit the car door on a telephone pole, dented the car door, couldn't open it for the rest of the tour. So for the rest of the tour, we had to get in from the passenger side. And this was within 24 or the 48 hours. I was just like, yo, that's why I always get insurance. Pay that extra money. Because I didn't have to pay that when I brought the van back. But I would have had to pay a lot of money. You know what I mean?
Pro tip, get the insurance.
Get that insurance every time.
Every time. Yeah. All right, so couple more questions. One, what advice would you give to artists who are, I don't know, we talk about like the manager will find you. Like we had Classic on the last episode, and it was just like, keep just creating and folks will find you. And I think what you're bringing up is like another point of, I'm creating, but I'm also assessing around me to see who I can put into play or who I can pull into supporting me. What advice would you give to artists who are trying to make those asks or figure out from their network where to kind of empower people? Because it does come down to, you know, if you're a manager, are you getting 15%, 10%? Like, what are those relationships? So, yeah.
I think it just starts as an artist with knowing what you're looking for. I think we have a lot of information now with the internet and just, you know, different places that we can go and kind of grasp information. And then in a community like Chicago or anywhere, I think there's always going to be somebody you can pull on from somewhere. There are mentors in real life and like digital mentors that you can reach out to. But I agree with, you know, what you said about Classic. Like, look at who is there already. Look at who is rocking, you know, with you. Like, I got a homie named Jalen who has been rocking with me since I was doing stuff with YCA. Like, you know, rocking, always putting me in positions, you know, to get my voice out there and get my, you know, keep sharing my art. And yeah, those are the people you look to. They show themselves. They show themselves. I did ask though. I have asked. You know, I didn't really know what I needed at the time. It was early on. All I knew was like, I just got this project done, you know, but I think you need to know what you need from someone and then just be a little bit more specific with them so that they know what your expectation is of them. So yeah, I think that's really important. I also had meetings with people and didn't go with them. And now I'm looking and I'm like, you know, should I have? What would that have looked like? It's like dating, you know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you know, grass look green on the other side. You know, you just never know. You have to just make your decisions with, you know, where you're at the time. But I think evaluating like where the opportunities are for you and then look at your network and be like, oh, okay, this person is really good at that. and they rock with me and they check in on me like as a person.
Mm-hmm.
They don't, sometimes people don't even like your music, or they're not the hugest fan. You want them to be a fan of your music, but you also want them to care about you as a person.
Yes.
Your well-being, checking in on you. Are you doing the stuff you said you was gonna be doing? You hitting the gym? You doing this? You know what I'm saying? Like, to me, that means a lot, because I want people around me who feel like family, whether this music thing is happening or not. Or if shit hit the fan, are you still a fan? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, it's like, are you still rocking with me? You know what I'm saying? And I really want people around like that. So yeah, you'll know. You'll know. Yeah.
All right. And I think to wrap it up, I would love to know, from a financial standpoint, what are you investing most of your dollars in? And as you talk about which I love the way you put it, figuring out, do you have, what's on your side, more time or more money?
Mm-hmm.
And lately it's been, you got the time, so you're learning it yourself.
Right.
What's the question? Like, what
investment?
Yeah, like, what is the investment and what are those things that you're doing? Like, if you're saying I'm doing it myself.
Yeah.
We talked about editing a little bit, but like, what are all based off the Elton Aura operation, where's the money being spent?
Yeah.
And then when you are offsetting those costs to do it yourself,
right,
what does that look like?
Yeah.
Present day.
No, that's a great question. And we need these questions. We need these answers. We need the experience. I would say I watch like a lot of podcasts and stuff like that. And one of my favorites is Earn Your Leisure. I love those guys. 19 Keys is on there. And a lot of times,
check it out.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
The Master Investor, Ian Dunlap. I'm plugging them because at some point I'm gonna be on that show and we're gonna all collab together. I'm speaking that.
That's right.
But one thing that they always say is like, they talk about investments a lot, and they're really talking about like stocks and bonds and stuff. But like, the best investment to make is within yourself. Like, it's into yourself in some way. So I feel like when I started learning guitar, I was investing into myself being more like self-sustaining, to where I didn't have to lean on someone else to make music for me and get it out. That's what like the guitar projects represent for me, and so it's been like that with video editing, right? Like, learning how to do that. Most of the things that you've seen recently from like this last rollout,
mm-hmm.
like whether it's the hats or the music, I've edited them.
Let's go.
Yeah. Filmed them with like my nephew, and we going with the iPhone out to the street, driving around, finding a dope location and setting it up, investing in a stabilizer. Me and my homies went in on a stabilizer for the phone,
mm-hmm.
to just keep it looking smooth. You know what I mean? Just small things like that. And like, whenever you get some bread, putting it into some part of your business that can help you, whether it's like a microphone. Getting a good microphone as an artist, I feel like is very important. I love going to the studio, but if I can't get to the studio, or the money that I would spend on going to the studio, I could like invest into getting my own microphone. And then from there, you need somebody to mix and master it, then go to the studio from there. But at least you can kind of like
own part of the process.
If that's what you want to do.
Okay.
And that's what I wanted to do. And I think it had to get to that point for me, but I had to be with engineers. I live with different engineers in almost all my cribs, and being with people who taught me. So it started with that too. So I didn't just get a microphone and just start. I like learned how to use the DAW through people who knew more than me. So going to the studio and working with engineers is the way to do it. And like, you get experience that way. But I think you should also learn how to do it yourself. So then even when you come to the studio, you can ask the engineer to do certain things that you've, taught and invest into yourself. You know what I'm saying? Learned yourself. So yeah, investing in equipment, investing in your ability to bring your ideas to fruition as much as you possibly can. and then pass it to somebody who can like take it a step further. I think that's really important.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and being a part of it. What's in that bag though?
Oh yeah, no. I gotta, I couldn't come here empty-handed. You know what I'm saying? So
get a context though.
Okay, so it's a lot of context into this.
Because I've been trying to get that hoodie for
so
2 years.
We gonna bring that back. People love the hoodies, so the Aura hoodies, they're gonna come back. There is a demand for the hoodies.
Yes.
But I have some other things. So first, you pretty much got something from almost like all my projects in here right
let's
now.
Go.
You got the Vertigo tote bag right now. I also have Vertigo CDs.
Come on.
In here. I got 2, so I don't know who.
I gotta get you to sign it. Yeah.
I can sign that for you. So I got 2 of those for whoever needs. I brought stuff for whoever. I didn't know how many people is gonna be here, but I definitely brought some stuff for you. Okay. So I got t-shirts as well. Elevate tees. You already got one on, so you don't even need one. So whoever need one, or you might need a new one. I got a couple.
Low key want one, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see what the people. But thank you so much.
I brought an array of sizes, so we got that. And then lastly, this is my newest jaunt right here.
Oh, that's that.
Yeah.
Okay. Hot off the press though.
Hot off the press. This one is special. The Aura Denim Dad had brought that for you. You know what I'm saying?
I don't even be. I got all this hair, but I'm gonna make it work.
Sure. However you can. I mean, you can just
so
pick
much,
and.
Yeah, yes. if I get this, everything else can be. For sure. You take CD and then the bag as well. So, it's also some stickers in here. Let's go. But yeah, I just wanted to show y'all some love for you. Just asking me to do this and be a part. For sure.